everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tree Actions, the Human Forestry Podcast. And this is a first for us. We've been looking forward to this moment where we are finally connecting intercontinental, and coming to us today, all the way from Norway, I believe in Oslo, is friend and colleague and author Kristin Moldestad. Is that how I say it?
Yes, thank you very much, Dwayne. Kristin Moldestad.
Moldestad. Yeah, you have to have. I noticed in Norwegian there's a lot of pauses,
Yeah,
and they're part of. Yeah,
we do have a habit to talk quite slowly, especially if you are from smaller places. You speak a bit slowly and have a long break. But if you are from the
yeah.
capital, you may speak a bit faster.
The big city. Well, I know that Tony and Tony is with us as always, my trusted co-host, and he appreciates the slow language or slow talking because I think it reminds him of how trees must talk, which would be even slower than people in small villages of Norway.
Well, there's that, and it's way easier to edit when people talk slow.
Okay, I will try to
Yes.
speed up a bit more than the ants in The Lord of the Rings.
And that's one of Tony's favorite examples of how trees must talk.
You figure if trees are going to talk, it's not going to be fast. They have time.
They have plenty
Right,
of time.
Yes. So along the lines, we start every episode the same, and pretty much the same. I mean, the question's the same, but where it goes from there is always different. But I would like you to think back to the very first time that you felt a connection to trees, and if you could just share with us that memory.
There are actually quite a lot different memories about trees. I have some very nice memories and some more like action memories and some more like
Wow.
love memories. So I can start with a very nice moment in my childhood. I was visiting my grandparents. They have this lovely garden with lots of plum trees and apple trees. And my grandmother, she was very she didn't have a phone when she was younger. So when she was
Okay.
calling, this was a huge thing. So she just called. We were living in another village, so we had to drive to visit them. And it was like, ring, ring, the plum are mature. And then she hang up. Okay, we had to go and pick them. So then we drove up and picked a lot of plums. And me and my sister, I'm a twin, so we were playing around and climbing in all these small plum trees. And that's like a very good memory of my childhood. And she also makes this wonderful plum lemonade and a lot of stuff with this plum. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. What a neat connection to have, and that, with not only your grandmother, but that there's the connection. Do you think that she kept her conversation on the phone so brief because she felt it cost money to talk longer, or was it just?
Oh yeah, she thought it was very, very expensive.
Yeah.
So that's a saying in our family. The plums are mature. Then you have to hurry up. That's mean. Oh, come on! There is something happening.
It's what a refreshing way to communicate, and enough said. The plums are mature.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all you need to know, because that means you need to come now, because plums are one of the fruits that definitely they don't have as long a time on the tree. They fall and quite quickly.
Yeah, they can fall off, and if it starts raining, you will pick them when it's sunshine.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. So do you remember what kind of plums they were?
Oh, they were lots of different. They had these blue ones, which you call, I don't know if it's the same in English, but opal. We had
Okay.
one, and there's another one called Victoria,
Ah,
which is really good. Mm. But the blue small plums, that was the most, and they were very, very good. Yeah,
nice.
and they are very good in jam
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else? What other fruit trees did you play with?
Oh, they had this quite big pear tree and some apple trees. And they also have cows.
Ah,
That's not a tree, I know, of course, but where the cows were feeding, or in the field where they were out in the summer, because the cows are out in the summer, they have this huge. Um, this was an old farm from the Viking time, from the historical
uh-huh.
farm, more or less. So, where the cows were eating grass, there was this what do you call them? Small hills where they actually buried old Vikings before.
Wow.
So the cows were around all these small uh, hills, what you can call them, or small things in the landscape. And on top of that, there were birch trees. And in one of those birch trees, some of the kids around there had put up what you call a sling or
Mm-hmm.
swing you can
Yeah.
sit on. So that we called the swing to heaven.
Okay.
Then you can woo all over the cows.
Wow.
Very
So were
nice.
those trees planted because of the Viking burial grounds there? Were they planted by, or were they natural?
No, they were just grown up, I
Okay.
think. And someone think they were nice and didn't cut them down, and the cows didn't eat them. So they had a chance to grow and be big. They were mature
Yeah.
trees, very big.
Well, and
Yeah.
do you think that they would have been, their roots would have entwined with the graves?
Oh yeah,
Really?
probably. You feel the atmosphere from the Vikings into the tree, and it's
Well,
just
I
like
mean, I'm
all
not,
over the
I
place.
don't know necessarily, but I mean, it would be interesting because they would have been,
It will be interesting, but unfortunately, there had been robbery there, so we don't know how much were left.
uh,
They did actually find some gold and some necklace somewhere in this farm area, but not exactly here,
okay.
because almost all these graves were robbed once upon a time. Yeah.
I remember when I was in Norway, hearing about ash trees particularly, and that the Vikings had a tradition of, on their homestead, it was almost a spiritual thing to have an ash tree, particularly in right near the home or in front of the house or in the yard. Is that accurate, or am I mixing something up?
I think that could be true because ash is the old tree from the Northern mythology. Yggdrasil, you heard of that tree? Yggdrasil, the earth tree, the first tree on
Okay,
earth was an ash.
I see.
It's called Yggdrasil.
Okay, and that's Viking folklore, or
Yeah, yeah, or even that's what the Viking believed in.
okay.
So that was the gods for the Vikings. So it's older than the Vikings sort of thing, or that was what the Vikings believed in. Yeah, yeah, that's not my my religion. I don't know everything about
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but there are a lot of old ash trees in different in farms, old farms. But we also can find other kind of trees that are like oak and linden and other big trees connecting to the
Wow.
farms.
So
Mm.
there was it's fair to say that Norway, going back even to before, like to the Viking era, have always had a strong connection to trees in their heritage.
Yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yes, we can say yes on that one. But also because they were building lots of ships and boats from trees, so they had to live together with the trees, and they harvested the trees in another way than we do now. So I was on the west coast. That was a very fun job. We did some nature mapping, and we were going into a big forest where it had been a forest where they had lots of old oak trees. They did pull them before for harvesting timber for special parts for the
Really?
boats. So they could make the tree and branches grow in certain directions. So you have like this is good for that kind of material. You need to
Yeah.
in the front of the boat or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So we did mapping all those trees, and now, of course, they have planted spruce there because that's modern time. You need spruce,
Okay.
but the spruce kills the old oak trees. So the oak trees are more just like um, old, old dying trees in the middle of the spruce
Wow.
forest. And when you go around mapping them, you just suddenly they come like they're walking like an ant. They're walking towards you, and then you see this very very old pollarded oak tree that had yeah, it's falling apart and it's lots of mulch in it, and it's really like, oh, this is history. Someone have been here. This is old. It's
So
nice.
how old would you think they would be? Like when would the pollards have been done? How long ago?
Oh, they did it for several years. I mean, they did it a long time ago. So those three we saw there could probably be at least 300, 400 years, probably something like
Wow.
that. Maybe some just were 200, of course, but still they were old.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
that so and they've been interesting. So and you're saying that though that would have been done going back to the Vikings. They would have done the pruning basically.
Yeah, or if it was the Viking or the people that lived there at that time, because they needed this special kind of timber for the boat they were
Right?
making.
Yeah.
So it was a way to create your own timber, and they also did the same thing with hazel to make
Hmm.
barrels. So yeah, they did use the forest in a very nice way, I think, before.
Yeah, they didn't just cut the tree to use timber. They would cut the tree so it would grow timber and it could be
Mm.
it would, well, the tree's still there even for that matter, you know.
The tree's still there, yeah, yeah. And there were some really big no,
Yeah.
linden
Yeah.
trees. There were also pollarded ones, and some of them were really fresh and vital. And going in this spruce forest is quite dark, and then suddenly there is a space in the forest where there comes sundown, and this big, huge linden just like wow, come up. It looks like it's thick at the base, and then it's cut so it's like a vase.
Yeah. Yeah. Vase. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, this is, you feel connected to the tree. It's pure love, actually. It's so nice to see. It's just like you just stand there and wow. Yeah,
No,
sorry.
that's okay. That's awesome. And this is all part of the nature mapping. Maybe you could just explain to us, for everyone listening, what exactly you mean or what you're doing when you're nature mapping. I'm not sure I even fully understand what that is.
Oh, yeah. Nature mapping is here in Norway, we have divided the nature into different type of nature. Some nature are very rare and some are common and some very special in some sort of way. So we have this method of finding those special kind of nature. It could be, for instance, old oak trees are special. They are protected, and it could be different kind of forest that have a lot of biodiversity in it. So we go around in the nature, the forest, or yeah, the forest, and then we see, oh, you come to a certain area and you see that this is this kind of nature, and then you have a little iPad, so you put in the point where this forest are, so you're actually drawing the map out in the field, and then you collect this data and you put all the data into a huge database, and then the government or who wants to use it can use this. And then if you're going to build something, then you have to apply, and if there are this kind of nature there, you are not allowed to build there, or hopefully not allowed to build there.
So it's a way to protect and preserve the history of, or even just the older, anything that's unique in the forest.
Yeah. It's a red listed forest, red listed species, red listed type of nature.
Okay, so red listed means it's special?
Yeah, sorry. Red listed means it's special and it's rare. And for instance, ash trees, Fraxinus excelsior and Ulmus glabra are red listed species in Norway because they are on their way of dying out because of, Dutch elm disease and ash dieback.
Yeah, interesting.
So they are red listed in Norway.
And this is a country initiative. It's not. Is it readily supported? Like, does everyone embrace this as far as Norwegians go? Generally, is it like everyone thinks it's a good thing and is glad that it's being done, or is there protests around it, or how is it being received publicly?
Oh, I think most people are very glad that we can map this data, and so we will have a overview of what we have,
Yeah,
so then we also know what we will lose
right.
if we build something. But of course, people that own this land with the nature that are protected, they're probably not so happy because then they can't build out. But then again, they can apply for money from the government, so they can preserve this area instead.
Okay.
So they will have some economically benefits of it as well.
That's quite interesting. So you have, there you're actually creating a layer of separation between red or special trees, unique trees that is on a property. Now you don't, even though the government doesn't own the property, they're applying some protection or ownership to the special things that may be on the property.
Yeah, and that's because the government are, although they don't own the property, they are in charge of maintaining this kind of nature. So there is like a certain layer in this. For instance, if you take big old oak trees, it's the government that are in charge of the preservation and some kind of the maintenance for it as well, but it's the owner that actually has to do the maintenance, and that's why the owner can apply the government to get money so they can do the proper treatment for the tree if necessary.
So what was their what do you think their reasoning was for doing it? What was there? Did they notice that they were losing this historical legacy, or is there more to it than that? Is it because of environment, or what was the reason to give this protection?
The reason is probably because we didn't know as we know Norway is forest all over Norway. So we think, oh, it doesn't matter, we can just build things down. And then some people say, yeah, but some of this nature is actually very, very rare. It doesn't exist any other places, for instance, or it's our responsibility as a nation to take care of this kind of nature. And then someone started to look more into it. And this is quite common also in Europe as well, to do nature mapping. So we probably copied some from Europe as well, and Sweden, of course. And then the government started, the municipal, they made this new method for nature mapping in Norway. So it's possible to go out and do this kind of work. So they try to map quite a lot every year, but it will take time to get it all done, of course.
Yeah. It's quite fascinating, and I think, it's all, as so often things are, it comes down to dollars and cents or very pragmatic things. But I think there's a lot of intrinsic value esoterically and spiritually to these matters as well, that I think the benefits are even greater, but they're not as measurable. So they still, I think they're preserving a lot more than just history. They're preserving legacy and just that energetic connection to the past and putting value to it and taking action to putting value to it does something for the society and for people in general. I think it's important too, but not just from a monetary
Yeah.
standpoint.
Yeah, and we also have to think of the next generations. What will they live of? And there are so many things in nature we do not know about. So if we destroy it, we don't know actually what we destroy. So that's our responsibility to take care of something, because we actually do not know what's living in the nature. We don't know everything. Lots of things we do not know. So we can't use everything up before our next generation. We have to take care of them as well.
Yes, and there really is so much, to discover. I agree. As the more we learn and understand, the more we realize we don't know and understand.
Yeah,
And
that's
I have to say, I recently, I've met you before, and I've met you in Norway, but recently we were at the ISA Ontario conference where you were speaking on roots, and I didn't know that you had, when I first met you, you weren't involved in that project to the degree that you are now, and I was just genuinely completely blown away at, and it was something I had no idea of, and I never even thought of, even though I've cut lots of roots but I never thought of that every tree root is unique. It's just quite an amazing discovery, and yet it seems like you just sort of almost accidentally stumbled upon it. But what a great gift to the industry and to everyone, really. I mean, and did that come out of nature mapping and stuff for you, or how did that happen?
Oh, it did not come out of nature mapping. It was because I was asked to preserve an oak tree in Norway because they were going to build a house around it.
Yeah.
And there were lots of different trees around this tree that were going to be felled anyway. And this year I was actually living in France, so it was quite hard to go out in Norway to look at this tree. So then I asked my co-writer, Olve Lundetre, and his company, or the guys he worked together with, to go out and be my eyes on the site, because it was a bit of a fortune to go from France to Norway just for looking at this tree. So they did, and they did the tomographic, and they used the tomograph to search for the roots, but that was very strange results for some reason. Probably because of a lot of gravel around the tree as well, and it was in the middle of a kindergarten, so it was probably quite compact as well. So we decided to use the air spade, or air tool is the correct word, I think, to take away some of just to have a look. What does this look like? We want to see it. And then there was this mangle of roots coming up. But who? And they sent pictures, and you see there are different roots, but we cannot tell. Is this an oak tree, or is it the maple, or is it the hazel, or is it the birch? It's not the pine, of course. We can see that. We did know, so we did know that it's not the pine. But there were maidenhair. There were lots of different trees there. So then we thought, there must be some books or something that could tell us what we are looking at. So we started to search for literature in the internet, and I asked some colleagues at the university, but they didn't come up with anything. We didn't find anything except from some very nice books about roots, but they didn't tell what do you see when you are out. Like for flowers and trees and everything above ground, there are thousands of books. Flora that can tell you what a leaf from a maple looks like, or an almus or whatever, but not for roots. So that triggered me very much, and also Olve as well. And then we just started, this is something interesting. We will find more we will find this out. We will do something here. So then we started to look at tree roots.
Right.
And luckily, or probably unluckily, we have good access to roots because they are digging all over Oslo center. All over. It's always digging quite close to a tree. So, and it's a quite small industry here, so we know people that are arborists. And in Oslo, they have this, or more or less, very often at least, this rule that there have to be an arborist on site when you're digging quite close to a tree. So that's good. So then they could call us and say, "Hey, we have an open trench here. Come and look. There are some nice roots here for you." So then we ran out and collected samples and took the photos, and we just discovered this amazing world of different roots, and they even have colors.
Yeah.
And they behave different. I mean, some of them change color, like the branches also do when you cut them, and some are just do not change color, which is also very interesting. Why? I don't know, but probably has to do something with the chemistry inside the root. And yeah, like the Ulmus glabra that produces this slime when it's exposed to air, which is also we learn after all was quite healthy to eat. I didn't taste it, but
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
yeah. So we were actually more or less blown away about this fascination about wow, the roots are actually as different as the leaves and as the flowers for different tree
Yeah.
species.
Imagine that.
And if you think about it, it's actually not strange because why should it, the opposite would be more strange if they were
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. Very true.
Yeah.
I remember. I think we talked about this at the conference, but I know Shago is just literally jumping around, clicking his heels right now because, he always said that underground root research was by far the most lacking. That there just needed to be more. He would just have loved what you guys have discovered and what and just simply photographing and assembling the collection into a book, tree root identification book. Like it's a first and it's very unique. And I'm curious how it's affected you, not just professionally but personally, like kind of being the person to help introduce and discover or show us all this new knowledge. How has that affected you?
It's very, very strange. It's very fun. It's first of all very, very fun because everybody I meet are so enthusiastic and they really appreciate the work we have done. I mean, it's a spare time project, and we just like took it together and make a book, and then the snowball just started to roll. People are just like, "Wow, this is great! Thank you very much." I was like, "Oh, okay, so just roots, behave." But it's very nice, and it's very nice to have so much good feedback because it's not a scientific work. It's our sampling, and we have just put it together and put it into a book. And of course, the presentations at the conferences helps to get this. I think it's quite important message out to the people. And the most important thing with this project is that maybe Bruce can get a bit more respect, that people actually see that it's a or arborist and people who are working with trees knows that roots are important, but still it's nice to have like a book or something to say that yes, it is really important, and it says here in the book as well.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. There's a great power that I don't know if it's existed since the dawn of written word, but there's a great power to this day, even with the internet. I think books hold a higher value. Having something in print still holds higher value than even having a YouTube channel or anything like that. For some reason, it's still, Tony, you've got the background in philosophy and literature. Why do you think that is? Why does the written, for one thing, the root book is unique. It's new. I mean, that's part of it, but it's also, like you said, Kristin, there is having it documented and written down and someone can look at it and reference. There's power in that. Do you have any idea why that might be, Tony?
I think it's because books are harder to make, right? So there's a process behind a book. So somebody's got to go out and take the pictures, and so there's more work that goes into it, so it has more validity. Whereas if you just have, you just make a YouTube video, I could go out and make a YouTube video in 10 minutes. Doesn't mean the information's good or wrong or right or wrong. I think books, much like when you read something in a newspaper, it seems to have more validity because it's almost been vetted. It's not just single source, like somebody's read it and then somebody else has read it and then somebody said this is worth publishing, and then it goes through the process. So I think I think there's just more respect to a book because it just takes longer to do.
Yeah, you make a good point. And Kristin, you must have experienced that when you decided to start assembling this and putting it together. I imagine the work, was it as much or more than you expected? Like, it wouldn't have just, there's a lot of photographs which everyone loves, but you had to organize it and the verbiage, everything. It would have been a bit of a project.
Oh yes, it it was a bit bigger project than we thought in the beginning. Yeah, we will just put it together in a book and write the text, no problem. But of course, it has to be proofreading, and yeah. So we had good help, definitely, yes. But it was also very good to have it translated to English, because then it was the Arboriculture Association that did that, and they could also do an extra proof reading for it. So that was very helpful as well. And now it's translating. It's going to be translated to German at the moment, so it will be released in April in Augsburg in the tree conference there. So that's also amazing, I think.
We should mention that you can purchase the book on ISA's website right now in English. I just looked it up on my phone, and I think Trees UK are selling copies as well too, Kristin, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
I've got a copy here myself. So this will be not only is it our first podcast from overseas, but it's also the first time I think that we've officially plugged a book, and it's definitely one you should have. It is just really cool. I remember I would spend a lot of time with Dr. Shigo, and I got to know him very well personally as well as professionally. But he would comment on books, particularly arborist books, and what he endeavored to do. He said books need to be written with a lot of pictures and a little text with each photo. In your book, I don't know that you ever heard Shigo say that, but your book is exactly like that, and it makes it a very I don't know, easy read, but you can be intrigued by a photo and then you can go read deeper if you want. At least that's how my brain works. But I don't know, Tony, have you ever heard Shigo say that? And if that is a philosophy on book writing, or if that's just something that Shigo came up with?
I think that's just Dr. Shigo knowing that the average tree person is probably going to appreciate pictures more than words.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There's a reason that, I don't sit behind a desk and didn't earn my living that way. I was much better with my hands out in the woods. So pictures are way better for me.
Yeah, and sometimes, or very often, pictures says more than 1,000 words. It describes and it's a picture of this root from that tree. So then you can think about, okay, I'm in another tree, and maybe there's some other soil there, or maybe there's something else, and then you can start imagination, and you can look what you should look for, because it might be different somewhere else. But one thing we found was very interesting about this project was the yearings of the roots, because and maybe this is not so strange either, because the branches grow in air. They have no pressure around. They can get as fat as they want. But roots, they are in this compact atmosphere of soil, and they have to really struggle to get thicker. And of some of the roots, we found that like a root with 1 centimeter diameter had 9 earrings, and that's really a lot. But we don't know if it's exactly 9 years, but still it says that it's quite old.
Whereas a 9-year-old branch would normally be a larger diameter.
Yeah, it would be more like your arm maybe, or maybe even your something on your body, your leg.
Yeah.
But the roots, of course, if the soil is very moisture and very not so compact, it probably could be thicker, probably.
Yeah.
But you won't hesitate to take off a branch that is 1 year old. That's okay. The tree will survive. But if you take a branch that's 9 year, you might start to think, because you could have some rot inside or something. Maybe there could be something like that. And if you do this with roots, and you don't and you don't think about this change of atmosphere from air to soil, you might lose some very important parts of the tree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the tree protection zones. Hopefully, there'll be a more data-driven argument to expand tree protection zones, which we've all known is lacking. Like, I've never seen a tree protection zone for a construction site that ever has made sense to me, ever, really. They're always too close. But this gives us some data to help defend it more, right? And then not only that, but to show that this actually is a root from this tree, which we can prove definitively now much more easily, which is also very valuable. It's a credible, and you're talking about not knowing about the forest and protecting things, like your nature mapping. It's like no one had ever yet really delved into this topic and has, shown that, yes, each root is unique to each tree, just like the branches and foliage and flowers are. And of course it makes sense, but yet no one had done it. And, it just never ceases to amaze me how there's these things that pop up. I don't know how we'll ever, what will be the next thing, I wonder, but it doesn't matter. This one's cool enough for now.
I mean, I look forward to the day when, tree ID books have root pictures too, right? Because it's just one more point of reference. Because a lot of tree ID it's just points of reference, right? Like, oh, okay, the leaves like this, and then the fruit or the nut is like this, and then the bark looks like this. And I mean, the root would be one more, especially if you were doing, appraisal work and the tree's gone.
Yeah. Mm.
It would be good for that. And I think it's neat too, having done a lot of construction damage mitigation work with like an air spade or an air tool where I was cutting roots. I look back now when I was doing that, and the work was successful. I mean, there was no choice. It was either cut the roots or they'd rip them. So, but when I was making my cuts, I was comparing it to branch size. So I would say, oh, this is only like a 1 centimeter root. I can just cut that. That's nothing. But it might have been significant for the tree. You can't make that comparison. Like, you can't say, oh, I wouldn't remove an 11-inch branch. Certainly wouldn't, I might have to compare that to like a 2 centimeter root, age wise. So
yeah, or at least you have to cut it and count the earrings and make a decision on site.
Absolutely. I mean, it would be interesting if you could equate it to yearly rings, like yearly wood in a tree, and then see how far they spread by year, right? Because if you had a root that was 9 years old and it was, 3 meters from the base of the tree, that might be telling. It would be interesting if you could age them that way.
Yeah.
It is very provocative. Absolutely. In fact, and I think your days of traveling to conferences are in the just beginning.
Yeah.
The next time we have you on the show, you'll be completely internationally renowned. Who knows? You might get on Oprah with this one.
That would be great to go on Oprah with roots.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's quite unique and it's quite special, and it's part of this whole human forestry thing. Like, it's really interesting. Trees of all things. I guess they're particularly a popular topic with the green the save the planet type concept that's been around for several decades now. But even before that, we were just talking earlier, like the Vikings had special connections to trees. Like I don't know of any civilization or culture that doesn't have a type of reverence around a tree. Even all the major religions, trees appear in some way in symbol or form or in application. Right from keeping even like boats. Like we couldn't have ever navigated the ocean without trees. There's so many connections that anything that we can learn about it, it's like we naturally are intrigued, and it transcends the arborists. Arborists are obviously the ones that get to handle the wood, and we get to be with trees more than a lot of people, but everybody finds it fascinating and interesting.
Yeah. If you have a piece of wood on your table, people have to touch it.
Yeah.
It says, "Wow, this is nice. What is it?"
Yeah.
It's cool.
What do you think? Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is, Kristin?
I don't. It's It's very. You just want to touch it. There is something. I think there is something inside us that are, because we are not. So we are not modern people in clothing and stuff like that, but our brain is the same as it was ages ago, from our ancestors, and they were always living in the forest. So I think we still have this instinct that the trees are good for us. We can benefit from it. We are actually we need the trees to live. So I think just to touch the inside of the wood it's kind of hollow. It's kind of religious some way.
Spirituality,
Yeah,
spiritual.
maybe that was some spiritual probably. And it's I know, but just like the feeling of touching wood is always relaxing, I feel.
Yeah, I like what you said about that. I think there is the collective conscience of memories and learnings that, I don't know that when we pass on, that everything that's in our mind is simply lost to our body, but the spiritual part of us, it's carried over and connects with others, and when it never really does get lost. So like we do have deep within us all that memory that our ancestors had to trees, whether it was for shelter or food and well, even now, I mean, still trees are responsible for many things, from food to shelter. Like a lot of buildings are still built out of wood. There still is this very strong connection to the forest for many of us.
Yeah, and now you can buy tickets to go forest
Yes.
bathing. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
It's quite cool. I mean, you can just go out in the forest and be there, but you can also buy a ticket and have someone telling you that go out in the forest and relax and feel the nature.
Well, and then they've proven the terpenes and the chemicals, like the off gassing through the stomata, that it is actually calming for our nervous system. And I think, I mean, I've never heard a study on this, but I've come to believe, for those of us that ascend into the canopy, that have climbed, and anyone that has ever climbed, I mean, I'm sure it's tied in with, there's a little fatigue and effort involved, but you get into canopy particularly on a nice, calm, sunny day, particularly with full leaf, and you literally sit there and you're I don't know, it's meditative. There's this, and I think it's because there's a higher concentration of these gases that calm us. And as a climber, or even if you're in a lift, I think it's more effective when you're climbing, though, because you're more in the tree, but you really get a sense of it. And I think of the trehab stuff that John Gathrade's done, where he's using it as a way to rehabilitate people, and people feel and experience a different type of consciousness or meditative state that comes somehow from the tree. My son was inspired by John Gathrade and some of his tours at a talk he heard when he became ISA president, and he was going to university at the time. And there was a kid in his class, a fellow student who was wheelchair bound and had an illness. And he decided to take him up a tree and asked his mother, and it turned into this big project. And it ended up, there's actually a video on it and everything. It's called John's Climb. And this part of his illness, he caused him to have very spastic behaviors. Like I've met him a few times, and you're trying to have a conversation with him. He's faculties are all there. He can't control his actions. And his shoe goes flying across the room suddenly and stuff like that. So he'd have these really sudden, jerky reactions that have always been there. But when he was in that tree and they took him 100 foot up into a fir on UBC campus, and when he came down and his mother commented on it, because his mother is his major primary caregiver, he can't really do anything on his own. He was calm and she'd never seen him that calm for that long ever before. And I can't help but think it had somehow given to him by the trees. So these are just some of the cool things that, like I said earlier, we don't really have a way to quantify that. And here you are, nature mapping, protecting these ancient places and forests and trees that impart far more than just historical significance. I think there is an energetic type of thing. I'm getting a bit esoteric here. I tend to do that, but I really do. I think and you can't really because it's esoteric, it's hard to put that value to it. So like the government isn't going to say, we're going to preserve the energetic feeling that these trees impart to the individuals that go visit them. They don't really you never see that documented, but yet everyone that goes and takes time, they experience it.
Yeah, and also the main thing about having this nature mapping is that you can protect area where other species lives. Yeah. Other species that we know about and other species that we do not know about. Right. So we are trying to take care of their house, their household. Yeah. Mm.
What do you think, Tony? This esoteric, is there do we have more than just, could it be somewhat spiritual or whatever, our connection that we innately have with trees?
No, yeah, I definitely think so. Because I know from my own experience, having been, production tree climber, where I was literally, it was my job to be in trees 5 to 6 days a week. Then when, as my career advanced and I started doing other things and training more, and I wasn't climbing as much and I didn't have as much time in the trees, I felt like something was missing, and it took me a little while to quantify it. And it was that almost meditative, I had to pick up sort of a meditative practice in my own life, because without it, things just didn't make sense. And I'd realized that it was my work in the trees. Literally, I was, I think it was that connection to trees. Some of the physical, just breathing in the gases and the off gases, but then also just the fact of you're working with a living thing. I wasn't sitting in front of a computer tapping on keys. And while there were many times I would climb the same tree year after year, it was never the same tree. It was just sort of like meeting an old friend. And it was always different. So I definitely think there's something to it, because I felt that gap. When I wasn't climbing all day anymore, there was something missing in my own, my own personal life. And it was that sense that trees give you, that time alone. Some of it was the physical work as well too, but then just, the tree itself, I think.
Yeah. When I was in Thailand and I spent 2 months in a small village, and I would run every morning, and there were these, I don't even know what species it's. There's these massive spreading, like probably 1.5 meter diameter base at the trunk, with lots of exposed roots, and they were just left to grow. They were near the beach, and the canopy would go up, and then wide spreading, and 10, 15 meters from the trunk would be, the canopy would come down and you could like touch it, and it would like a big mushroom type thing, like a lot like a live oak type of thing. And I had just gotten the habit of, I would do laps around this one park, and I would go up to the tree every day, and I would touch the tips, and then I would walk the roots to the center, and then I would touch the trunk. And I just really remember that, and I would do it daily. And I sometimes wonder if the tree remembers me or misses me, because I miss it. But who knows? And I know if I ever go back, I will do it again. I will feel energetically drawn to do that. And I guess it could just be all made up in my mind and everything else. But I do think there is more to it. I think I think the veil that exists between what we know and don't know is far thinner. If we were able to expand our consciousness into seeing it, I think we could see trees in a whole different way. But the Lord of the Rings gives us the symbolism of that, at least.
Yeah, it does, definitely.
I was wanting to ask you, Kristin, if when you are doing your root work, we are talking about being in the canopy and feeling this connection energetically. Do you ever, like, it would make sense that it would be something you would find in excavation as well, but did you ever find that where as you were, cutting roots and finding them, that there was a sense of connection there?
Yes, I would say so.
Wow.
But of course, not all environments are so nice to be in, like up in the canopy. You are probably down
No.
in the ditch or in the trench, and the roads just on the side. But still, you are in this more or less holy area for the trees. You're
Yeah,
very close to the
absolutely.
roots, and the roots are very vital for the tree. So yeah, sometimes I felt like, okay, can I take this root off? Can I please? Can I take it off? Okay. So yeah, you
Well,
feel that you
well,
are
and I think it,
close to
go ahead.
them in some way. Mm.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's part of I mean, I think it's just our own perception, that we would, what is such as it is below as it is above, that this connection of heavenly to earthly,
Mm.
and the trees symbolize that from the roots to the canopy,
Yeah,
and that it's not a dark, dirty place. It's a different place.
with lots
And
of
there's
live.
different types of security there,
Yeah,
like the roots are surrounded and protected. And,
and it's not just
we,
roots. There are all those other things that live in the soil. I mean, there you have the mycorrhiza, and you have the, all the other insects and nematodes, nice ones and bad ones, of course. But you have a lot. It's like it's a universe underneath as
yes,
well.
yes, yes.
And I think,
We,
because if you have like the protection of the roots, you really have to think about it's not just the roots you protect actually the whole ecological system around the tree.
right,
And also the
correct.
water flow and everything has to be connected. So you
Yes,
can't just measure, this tree has just like 3 meters roots or something. No, because you have to think about all the other organisms that actually live in this site and make
yeah,
the tree can live and that they live together. It's a community. Take care of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
As Shiga would say, trees are the most connected organism. They're connected with so many things, and they're again an example of that connection, and not and they expand that connection into us. But we do this exercise in some of the tree biology classes we do, where we'll go to a forest like a natural native forest area, preferably close to water, somewhere where we know it hasn't been corrupted by construction or civilization, I suppose you could say, agriculture or whatever. And we, just take a chunk of soil,
Mm.
like a bucket full, and then we go to your typical urban park or landscape where there's sod, turf, trees, this, and you attempt to get the same volume of soil. You dig down maybe a foot, get a foot, a 20 centimeter or 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter square cube.
Yeah. Mm.
Get one from the forest and get one from an urban landscape. And then we bring them on a table and we use hand lenses and we try to find as many organic living things in the two samples. And it is amazing what you find, particularly the more wild the soil is.
Yeah.
The amount of living things, from snails to nematodes to worms to insects to snails, particularly. I'm fascinated. Everywhere we go, you find snails, like
Yeah.
water type organisms
Yeah.
in soil
In soil.
that
Yeah.
are
Humans. Yeah.
almost imperceptible to the eye. You can barely see them, but with the hand lens, it's amazing what comes to life. And then you go to the urban soil and you can hardly find anything.
No. So that's no wonder why urban trees struggle a bit.
Yeah. And you're right. We're not just protecting the roots, because usually, often, trees that have gotten to an age in the urban environment have found places to have their roots be where they're not so barren of their community.
Yeah.
Where they have connections with lots of other living things.
Yeah. It's wonderful organism, the tree.
Yeah. I find in the older neighborhoods where trees get less attention, that when they're left and nobody rakes up the leaves and cleans everything up around them, that in time they actually start doing a lot better left.
Yeah, but I also think that it's a mind switch, that people do not need to have a green lawn anymore. They can actually accept that it's leaves on the lawn, and that's good.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Definite paradigm shift needed to to separate the turf from the trees and to create the spaces for each if you need both. I know as I've gotten older, I guess people could argue that I don't like mowing lawn, but I just keep mulching more and more because I want to help the trees.
Yeah.
And there's basically strips of grass to walk on in between. That's about all.
Yeah, but that's good. That's good. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what's next for roots?
What's next for roots? We have discovered that there are a lot more to study for roots. There are many trees that we don't know what roots looks like. So one next step could be to study more roots. That could be.
Right.
So we are actually applying for some funding to do some more root work. So we'll see if that happen. We don't know yet.
I'm just looking at how many species you have in the current book. There's quite a number.
I think it's 45 or something in the English book. There are 7 more.
45 different?
Yeah, there are 7 more in the English than in the Norwegian. We added some more, and I do have some more on my computer that's not published yet. But we do. So if you are going to study more, we also wanted to study more trees of the same species as well, so we could be a bit more sure that's correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
More samples to verify that
from
it holds true.
Yeah, that would be great. Just to have a bit more. Yeah, it would be nice. But still, we have seen that if you have one branch from one tree, it looks quite similar to the other branch on the other tree. So I think it's the same for roots as well. But it's always nice to have some samples to be sure you are correct.
True.
And we also want to study more finer roots, because finer roots can also be. It's important if you're going to see for a disease or something, then you should know how a healthy root look like.
Yes.
So that's interesting. And there are quite a lot of people that ask me for come and hold workshops. So we'll probably see how I can arrange that.
Yeah. Show people how to dig up roots and identify them.
Yeah, dig it up, have a loop, a hand lens, and then you can identify them. So we'll probably do something like that.
It's interesting how Shaga would often say the same thing. It particularly to tree workers. He said you have the perfect opportunity every time you cut a tree, a branch or whatever. You can take a moment to cut into it in a few different angles and look at, you see something strange on the outside, cut into there and have a look at what's happening on the inside, and encourage people to do that, much like what you're saying. Just, you get a chance to see some roots, cut them, look at them under some magnification, and take a picture and just study it a little bit, touch the trees.
Touch the trees. That's a good thing.
I hope I haven't done more talking than you have. I know Tony's always a little bit quieter, but he always offers valuable insights.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you get a copy of the book yet, Tony?
No, I haven't. I will pick one up here in a bit. I got to wait until I know when I'm going to meet Kristin again so she can sign it for me so I can add it to my collection. Actually, I'll do a book trade. I'll bring you one of mine.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
It's just fiction. It's it's nothing scientific.
It's not fiction. It's good.
But I got 2 of them. Anyway, we'll do a book trade.
We will do a book trade, definitely.
So yeah, I will get a book. And all this, it wants me to ask a question. What books would you recommend as an arborist? What's on your bookshelf, your arborist bookshelf, for people to read?
Oh, it's quite a big bookshelf, actually. Yeah, but I do have one book that's very simple, very easy book. It's actually a child book. It's what is it called?
Oh, wow.
It's called about planting a tree, and it's about a tree and a boy that grows up together. And the tree will always give the boy something. The boy climb in it when he is small, and then after a while, he will sit underneath it. Maybe has a girlfriend, and they sit underneath it, and then and when he's older, he actually cut the tree down, and the tree gives him timber for his house. And when he gets really even older, then the tree gives him a stub, so he can sit on the stub and think about life. It's a really nice.
Wow.
It's a really nice book. It's probably have an English name as well, but this is in. I just have read the Norwegian book, and there is one book I want to have on my bookshelf that I don't have, and that's Ted Green's new book. So I think I can recommend that
Yeah.
because he's a fascinating person. You should have him on the podcast.
Yes, I do need to contact
Yeah.
Ted. Yeah.
So I think that's a good book. I haven't read it yet, but after spoken to him, I think he's a wonderful man.
Yeah, he'd be very entertaining to have on. Yeah, I definitely need to reach out.
I mean, the story,
Yeah.
the kids' book you're telling me about it. I think, and we were talking earlier, you have a piece of wood, everyone wants to, pick it up and move it or touch it. And I think part of that is trees give us a sense of history.
Mm.
And this made me think of it. I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I have a good friend of mine that lives real close to the house that my grandfather built. My grandfather planted some trees there. They're horse chestnut trees. In probably the 1930s occasionally we go up to visit and I walk under them with my daughter, and my daughter's like 19, 20 now, and she touches the trees that my grandfather planted, and there's a sense of history there. And I think that we innately sense that from trees, even if it's, a chunk of wood or something, because it really is. It's sunlight and dirt and minerals from time frozen like a photograph. So I just think somehow we know that.
And I think if you can, you always recommend books on the shelf, but I think actually a tree is a book itself. If you're able to read the tree, just relax, look at the tree, and read the story of the tree out in the nature, that's a really, really good thing to do.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, a tree can tell you so much, from how much it rains to which way the wind blows, generally speaking, right? It's all right there.
It is. Mm.
Well, especially if you just learn a little bit about how they grow and respond to stimulus. I think a lot of us take for granted the information that we collect over the years, being an arborist and gathering our credentials and so on. But I've yet to meet anyone that in very short order you can impart a little bit about reaction wood and compensation growth, and how trees bend against gravity and with the wind, and people can suddenly see it. It's not really that hard to expand their thought into it, and it's really cool. But yeah, I like what you said, Tony. That's real interesting. You've said it before, but I'm reminded of your, that they bring that connection, that historical connection, that legacy of life. They tie it up because well, like you do. Your daughter is interacting with trees that your grandfather or your father planted. It's that there isn't a lot of living things that we can do that with as humans. That we can can have that type of connection in posterity. I think it's part of the secret soul of trees, right? Yeah, trees are good and they're cool, and tree people are too. Well, we don't have a set time. Our previous guest today, we actually went for quite a bit of time. We ended up in the end talking about tree climbing competitions, and it almost started a secondary podcast. We could almost divide that one into two. But a little bit on that. Where and how did your journey into arboriculture begin, Kristin? Like, did you happen accidentally, or how did you end up being an arborist in the first place?
Yeah, it happened because my teacher at Wilby College, I think, said you have to go to the Norwegian University of Life Science because that's where you belong, he said to me. And okay, thank you for telling me. So then I started studying horticulture. Horticulturist, yes.
Okay.
I'm a plant or horticulturist, as I call it. And from there, we had some lecture about trees, and then I sort of figured out that's something interesting, the trees. And I
Right.
joined the Norwegian Society of Arboriculture, which is the ISA Norwegian chapter, as a student member. And then it just like, oh, there is a big community here of tree people, and this is a very fun thing to work with. So I started to work after university at the tree care company, and then I was hooked.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So I
Great.
did some climbing before I started roots.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I have been climbing a bit, but unfortunately, there were very lots of English people in this company, so they couldn't speak to the Norwegian customers. So I had to be on the ground, and yeah, I feel better on the ground anyway, so it was good.
So you were able to do you were translating, so to speak, a little bit.
Yeah, translating, dragging brushwood, good, very good in dragging brush.
Right. I can't think of anybody almost that has been an arborist that can't relate to the to brush dragging, like
Oh.
that the art of cleaning up brush. It's a rite of passage, I think, in any tree worker's
Yeah,
existence.
and it's also the way how you stack it to get it. I mean, there is
Yeah.
a method for stacking it good and stacking it bad. So if someone in the tree just take all the branches down in a pile, you say, "No way! We have to stack it. We have to do it properly, otherwise we'll be here for endless amounts of times."
Yeah, and it is astonishing how much extra effort can be created by having it not stacked
Yeah.
properly. Like how much more difficult it is to process and to move is just astonishing. And it's so difficult and so much harder that it becomes this thing that you're talking about. Like, no, don't do it like that.
Yeah.
You only have to experience it once the wrong way to never want to do it again.
No.
Yeah, it's astonishing. It really is fascinating.
Yeah.
I have met a few arborists that didn't appreciate the finer intricacies of stacking and dragging brush, but they didn't last very long. They were typically done by the end of the first day, because if you can't do that, that's like the basis of everything. It's like trying to have a sandwich without bread. It's just meat at that point and peanut butter or something. But yeah, they didn't last long. So I have met a couple, but they didn't make it to a week would have been a long time. A day was more like.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you need to see the pleasure in stacking branches.
I wonder what it is. Like, if any of you have ever thought about this, but what do you think it is that happens to people like us that we stay involved and in the trees and whatever path it takes us? We all we're all different paths, but we're all involved with trees. Why is it that we never left?
Because of the trees, I reckon, and what the trees does to the people in this industry. Because I mean, all the people I have met are nice people. So why change?
Yeah, interesting.
Why?
Yeah, I guess that is a good point. I haven't. Why change? And everyone you meet is pleasant or good or easy to work with or good to work with. I mean, I'm not everyone, but generally speaking, I've always enjoyed it. Yeah. Huh.
And I also think that the work you do, no matter if you are a climber or if a consultant or in this kind of industry, the days are never the same. There is always new work to do, new ways of looking at things. New There is never one similar day in their work. There is always something new that comes in, or that every trees are different as well, and every situation is different, and every customer is different. So there are so much into it. It's just like a routine work.
Yeah, that is true
Oh,
too.
maybe if you're going to pull out hundred of trees, there will be some routine. I see that, but okay.
Yeah. When you get the contract in Oslo to do multiple boulevards of
Mm,
pollards for the winter, that might be a little tedium there. But even there, though,
yeah,
each one is unique.
it is unique. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So have you done that? Have you been on the cruise where you've done the
No, I haven't.
repollarding?
But I have pollarded the
Yeah.
trees around my house where I live. My house, I live in a block, yeah, and we
Yeah.
have pollarded limes around. So we always renting people to do that because I can't trust the other ones that live in this block to do it. So we rent in professional because otherwise I would tell everybody which branch they had to, and every branch they had to cut. So then, okay, no, we rent in professionals that I can do that. So it's good.
Yeah. What do you think, Tony? Why do we get bitten by the tree bug and stay?
I can only speak from my own perspective, and I know for me it was a combination of the people, the community, the tribe, as I've called it before, and the work itself. When I decided arboriculture was going to be a career for me, I was at a point in life where I just really needed to work very hard all day and go home tired, or I would have just gotten myself into trouble if I had too much energy. So I needed to expel it. And I think, what kind of kept me with it was, like I said, the people. I like trees, and I've come to appreciate them much more towards the later stages of my career. But for me, it was always the tribe. I needed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it attracts others of the same type of mindset, and so you find that you have that commonality within each other because we stick around for similar reasons.
And I also think that many people, not all, but many people don't just do the work for the money. They do it for the passion,
Yes.
and that's good. I like people with passion.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I know I find with our instructors, of course they get paid and money's part of it, but it's as much of, one of our instructors talked about it. It was quite interesting. He would say it wasn't just that he liked to help others. He also liked what it gave him,
Yeah.
and it was beyond money. Helping others learn gave him a reward that was energetically empowering, that and is as much of the reason that he did it as it was to help others. He would always was very, it was important for him to communicate that. He felt it was, we're not just doing it. He didn't just teach because he liked to help others. He taught because what helping others did for him as well. And of course he got paid to do it, which was kind of a bonus part to it, like what you're talking about. But it wasn't just the giving to others. It was what he received in return in doing that it was the win-win combination. And often, I don't know, I always found it interesting that it was important for him to point that out.
Yeah, but I think I understand him. But it's very. I do some teaching myself. It's very nice to meet the students and to discuss all the things that I teach with them. It's very good to have their asking, and we have this discussion, and there is something in between that develops, which is very nice.
And it's synergistic. it's a flow. It's a back and a forth. It's not just a taking and or giving. It's a giving and receiving. Why do you teach, Tony?
Because teaching is the hope that you can practice. That's a quote from one of my mentors.
Ooh, yeah.
And then also from Neil deGrasse Tyson, he said that one of the most powerful things you can do in this world is to launch another learner into it. So I teach so that people can maybe enjoy learning as much as I do.
And that's your take back from it, is that the sense of value and accomplishment or reward that you get from helping someone launch. I wonder what we give back to the trees. I mean, we talked a lot today about what they give us, but what do we give them, I wonder?
Or carbon dioxide, right? And then I've pruned a lot of trees. I've planted a lot of trees. I like to think that, my time, work, and my labor spent and the wear and tear in my body allowed that, the arborist ultimate job is to, be that interface between trees and people, because most of the trees don't need people. Right. They're just fine. They don't really need people, but you need arborists to interface the two so that people can have trees and enjoy them. So I like to think that while I've helped a lot of trees, what I've given them is people the ability to appreciate them and to be able to live next to them so they didn't fall on their home, or their children could play underneath them and their kids could touch trees because of what I've done.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think we give trees that live in urban areas a longer life, maybe, than if we hadn't been there. But as you say, Tony, trees don't need humans.
No, they do just fine on their own.
But Earth doesn't need humans as well. I mean, we need humans.
Once more of us start to realize that, it's going to be a happier place.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's been I want to thank you, Kristin, for sharing your time and your knowledge and being willing to be questioned and for giving us your answers. It's been a really interesting conversation, and thanks. And congratulations again on the book. It's called Roots, a field guide for identification. If anyone's interested in it, I would highly recommend it. It's one of a kind, and it's new. It's hot and new. It may even be hard to get a hold of because they sell out every place you go, I think.
And they do. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to be here.